Welcome into OutKick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis, and I hope all of you are having a fantastic Tuesday. Had to think there for a minute about what day exactly it was. You can get up to $1,000, no risk wager. Tennessee, Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia, Michigan, all of those states, Colorado that I just ran through. All you have to do is go sign up today. $1,000 no risk wager at fanduel.com/clay. Encourage you all to go give us 5 stars on this show. Go sign up for the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton podcast as well. We had Alex Berenson for most of the second hour of the program. I think you will enjoy that conversation. Encourage all of you to go check that out. All you have to do is go to fanduel.com/clay. FanDuel.com/clay to get $1,000. No risk wager. All you have to do to sign up for the podcast is basically just search my name, Clay Travis. Go on iTunes, go on Spotify, go on Google Play, anywhere out there. Just type in Clay Travis and boom, you'll be able to find the latest shows, including this one. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed here. The Stephen A. apology tour is underway. This morning on First Take, he apologized to Shohei Ohtani and all people who are Asian for his comments about Shohei Ohtani needing a translator. And then also he apologized to people of Nigerian descent for making fun in some way of the way that their names were pronounced. And I asked you guys, 25,000 of you have voted in the first hour or so, whether or not Stephen A. should have apologized. 57% of you said no. 43% of you said yes. So 57% no apology needed. 43% of you said yes. And I think what's going on here is, in general, this is one of the challenges that comes with cancel culture. And let me explain what I mean. Most people who are watching this show right now are not super woke. You are not in favor of identity politics. You are not in favor of cancel culture. And I want to make it clear that I don't believe in cancel culture, as I have said for about the billionth time. But a lot of you, I think very reasonably, are sitting around and thinking, what's the best way to combat cancel culture? Is it to hold people like Stephen A. Smith to the standard that ESPN has previously held other hosts to? Or is it to acknowledge that demanding people be fired and demanding apologies is almost always wrong, and we should not insist on apologies and or suspensions or firings or anything else in a situation like this? And I think that's a challenge. My general rule is to point out the hypocrisy while also explaining that I'm opposed to cancel culture. So, remember when the chink in the armor issue happened at ESPN several years ago? They fired the host who used the phrase chink in the armor, referring to Jeremy Lin not having a good game. And they fired the guy who wrote the headline. And the guy who wrote the headline, I think, went on, if I remember correctly, in a really intriguing story, to actually go back to seminary school and to become a priest. Also, ESPN has set the standard for a long time, that inappropriate contact comments on air, off air, can lead to you losing your job. So, I don't think that Stephen A. Smith should have to apologize for what he said. I understand what he was attempting to say, and let's take it outside of the United States. We talked about this on the Clay and Buck show. If, let's say, I suddenly went overseas to China and I was the greatest ping pong player in the world. I'm a pretty good ping pong player as it is, but let's pretend I was the greatest ping pong player in the world. I don't know enough about Chinese marketing to know for sure, but probably not knowing a word of Mandarin would probably hurt my ability to be marketed as a ping pong star in China. Let's just toss that out there. So, what Stephen A. was attempting to talk about was the fact that he doesn't believe Shohei Ohtani is able to be the face of Major League Baseball because he needs a translator. Where I think he whiffed is, here's the deal, and this is where he should have been smarter, I think. Do we really gain that much from athlete interviews during or after games? I really don't think we do. I think most of our judging of an athlete comes from how they do actually on the field, on the court. In other words, very few athletes, I made this argument for a long time, very few athletes make a tremendous difference for themselves by anything other than their performance in their sport of choice. And I've made this argument for a long time. For instance, I think most athletes, even though, especially if you're a true superstar, you lose more from social media than you gain from social media. Let me use this as an example. Peyton Manning, never been on social media. Michael Jordan, never been on social media. Arguably, the two greatest pitchmen of sports history are Peyton Manning and Michael Jordan. Never needed to do anything on social media. What social media does is if you don't already have an audience, let's say you're a backup offensive lineman or just an offensive lineman in general, and you're witty and you're engaging and you're fun, it can help to share your personality with an audience that would otherwise not know you exist. Whereas if you're a superstar, you're always going to get judged by what you do on the field far more than what you put on social media. And so I think a lot of athletes, in an effort to worry about their platform, are overreaching in worrying about things other than their performance. Because if you are a tremendous performer in your sport, that's how you get paid, that's how you make your money. So I don't think Stephen A needed to apologize, but I think most of the 43% who is saying he needed to apologize, this is coming from the overall perspective of this show, which was, how do you deal with cancel culture? And some people want Stephen A held to a really strict standard because ESPN has set the standard of strict behavior when it comes to cancel culture. And they typically don't apply it evenly. Instead, they apply it based on your race or your gender, which is how, frankly, Jalen Rose can get away with talking about Kevin Love being a token white player, which I think was directly racist and far more of a racist thing to be said and distributed by ESPN than what Stephen A said about Shohei Ohtani. So if you were going to require an apology, to me, what Jalen Rose said about Kevin Love is far more racist than what Shohei Ohtani, what Stephen A. Smith said about Shohei Ohtani or Nigerian basketball players or whatever. Yesterday was a rough day for Stephen A. Smith. So my position in general, as an opponent of cancel culture, I think pointing out hypocrisies and absurdity while also making it clear that you don't believe in suspensions, you don't believe in firings, you don't believe in the idea of one person says one thing and they should never be able to work again. By the way, Rachel Nichols has to be looking around, looking at Stephen A. Smith and saying, wait a minute. So you cost me a job based on something I said not on the air at all, that was illegally recorded, and now it has cost me, by the way, if I'm Rachel Nichols, 2 different jobs. But you let Stephen A. Smith go on the air, apologize, and there's virtually no consequences for what he said on the air. I do think there's a distinction, and should be a distinction, between what's said on the air and what's said in private that may somehow end up going public. But if I'm Rachel Nichols, I'm writing down notes and taking notes here. Stephen A. Smith makes $12 million a year. Jalen Rose makes a lot of money as well, also working in the NBA. Those guys both said things that were more offensive directly on ESPN platforms. Nothing really happens to them. I'm illegally recorded in my hotel room and I lose 2 jobs. This might be as simple as the pyramid of victimization. White woman ranks lower than black man on the pyramid of victimization, and so Rachel Nichols ending up losing jobs. Nothing really happens to Stephen A. or Jalen Rose, even though those situations are significantly connected. And by the way, if I'm Adrian Wojnarowski, I say, wait, I said F you to a United States senator and got suspended for a month or whatever the heck it was, and nothing happens at all to Stephen A. Smith on air for what he says or Jalen Rose for what he said. I definitely think there is an inconsistency here. Speaking of inconsistencies, every time I think The cosmetic theater can't get more absurd. I turn on my television in the world of sports, and it gets more absurd. Major League Baseball last night had the Home Run Derby. Congrats to Pete Alonso for winning it. Always an entertaining event to be able to watch. And I put it on, and I'm watching it from Denver. I'm still fired up about the fact that Atlanta lost the All-Star game because Rob Manfred is a buffoon. But I'm watching the Major League Baseball All-Star Game Home Run Derby, and everybody in the crowd, no masks. Everybody in the field, no masks. And they've got kids, did you notice this, running around in the outfield wearing masks. It was nonsensical, okay? Why in the world are young kids wearing masks running around in the outfield? If anything, they should be wearing helmets because those balls are getting absolutely crushed, and they're trying to catch some of these high fly balls that don't end up going into the seats, and they might get hit in the head trying to make some of these catches. But the idea that they need masks to protect themselves, nonsensical. Let me just be clear about this. We talked about it with Alex Berenson on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show today. No kid should be wearing a mask this fall in school. No kid of any age, vaccinated or not, should be wearing a mask at school this fall. Last year, I was okay with my kids being required to wear masks because I was just excited for the school to open up and for them to have in-person learning for the entire year. But there is no way whatsoever to justify, based on the science, anything at all associated with mask wearing among children, particularly mask wearing among kids younger than 12. Major League Baseball, I'm sick of the cosmetic theater. It was an embarrassment that they were requiring those kids in the outfield to be wearing masks. Did you see Gregg Popovich? He wasn't happy. Team USA went 54-2, I believe it was, with Coach K as their official head coach. Since Gregg Popovich took over Team USA, they are 9-5, and they have lost 2 straight exhibition games. They lost to Nigeria, and they lost to Australia. And when Gregg Popovich was getting questioned after the game, he was really angry at the presumption of the question that the United States used to blow out other countries, and it's true, they did, and now the U.S. team ends up in a lot of competitive games. Doesn't mean the U.S. is still not the best basketball in the world, but since 1992, when the Dream Team started to play, basketball has become much more of a global sport. Something like a quarter of NBA players are born outside of the country now, and the overall quality of play of other countries has increased at a higher rate than the overall quality of play in the United States has. And the United States, as a result, is occasionally, when the team is not put together very well, getting whipped. And Gregg Popovich was upset about being pointed out to him that the U.S. used to dominate everybody, and now they're ending up in a really tough spot. Now, the reality is these other teams play together a lot more than the United States team plays together. So they are better long-term competitors and teammates because they've played together a lot more, whereas the U.S. just puts together a team of players that are willing to go and compete at these international tournaments in the United States, in the Olympics, for instance. And so Gregg Popovich, not a very likable guy, really. I understand some people are like, oh, Pop is cute and he's cuddly. He's not a very likable guy to me. He's a jerk to the media. Without Tim Duncan and without Kawhi Leonard, he hasn't been a very good coach, go figure. And also, without Donald Trump to talk about, he really just looks like a bully, and he doesn't have very much interesting to say. Speaking of not very much interesting to say, where are the woke NBA contingent out there arguing about how politics hadn't impacted the NBA at all? Game 3 was on Sunday night. It was the least watched ever Game 3, other than last year's Game 3 in the bubble, which went head-to-head with NFL football. Let me repeat that. Game 3 of the NBA Finals on Sunday night, traditionally a great night for television. Game 3 is the least watched Game 3 in the history of NBA ratings, other than last year's game in the bubble. So the NBA, in the last 2 years, has posted the 2 least watched NBA playoffs and NBA Finals games on record. Seems like kind of a big deal to me. Maybe worth acknowledging that the NBA got woke and its ratings have gone broke. Yet all of the Blue Checkmark Brigade members out there won't acknowledge what has become a readily apparent fact. The NBA has taken body blow after body blow. The brand is collapsing. They need to apologize to America for denigrating this country, or they need to move the whole NBA to China, where they can shut up and dribble for Chairman Z, who may be more palatable with their overall political interests. Speaking of political interest, see the ESPYs? I didn't even know the ESPYs were happening. I gotta raise my hand. I had no idea that the ESPYs were going on this weekend. Only 1.1 million people watched. That is a tiny audience, the smallest in the history for the ESPYs by a massive amount. To give you an idea, back in 2015, when Caitlyn Jenner won the ESPY for Courage, 7.7 million people watched. Now the audience has declined by 86%. The ESPYs is officially, it appears, to be a dead project for ESPN. Everybody has effectively stopped watching award shows in general, whether it's the Oscars, whether it is the Golden Globes, Emmys, whatever it is. People are tired of rich athletes or rich actors and actresses sitting around and lecturing them on politics. And so people have abandoned viewership to a massive degree. The ESPYs used to be one of the crown jewels of ESPN programming. Over the last 6 years, it has effectively died. I wonder whether they're going to end up canceling the ESPYs or whether it makes any sense to even continue them. All-time low, 1.1 million viewers. ESPN, I got to tell you, has gotten woke, and they have completely gone broke. Peyton Manning was talking about Aaron Rodgers. And Peyton Manning said this debate has been going on since April, when Aaron Rodgers basically let it be known that he didn't want to return to Green Bay. Does Peyton Manning think that Aaron Rodgers is headed to Denver? He said no. So Aaron Rodgers, and I thought this was interesting, there was a list of the best quarterbacks in the NFL that came out. Bobby Barack at OutKick did an intriguing list of his own with the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but they let everybody vote in terms of who they thought the best quarterbacks were in the NFL and the top 10 quarterback list. So all of you can debate and fight amongst yourselves over who the top 10 quarterbacks are. Again, this was 50 NFL executives, coaches, scouts, and players ranked the top 10 quarterbacks heading into the season. Not surprised, best quarterback according to these 50 NFL insiders, Patrick Mahomes was first, Aaron Rodgers second best, Brady third best, Russell Wilson fourth best, Josh Allen at 5, Matthew Stafford at 6, Dak Prescott at 7, Lamar Jackson at 8, Justin Herbert all the way up in the top 10 at 9, and Kyler Murray was in the 10 spot. My boy Ryan Tannehill getting no respect. His numbers would suggest that he belongs in this mix. Deshaun Watson not in the mix, notably, probably because he's got 22 different women accusing him of sexual assault, even though that story has just kind of vanished and it's like nobody's going to talk about it anymore. But those are the 10 in order according to the ranking of NFL executives, coach, scouts, and players. Those are the top 10 quarterbacks. You heard them. You can now debate amongst yourselves. Cuba. We've been talking a lot about Cuba on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show, also talking about it a decent amount here, because I believe that right now the situation in Cuba is really an incredible challenge and also an incredible opportunity for the United States. And the mayor of Miami came out earlier today and said he would be in favor of airstrikes in Cuba to support protesters on that island nation 90 miles to the south of Florida. Now, I don't know what the right response is, But I do know that Joe Biden putting out his thoughts and prayers and basically his hopes that Cuba is going to be okay is not in some way going to make that place any safer at all for people who support freedom and democracy. So, what is the maximum amount of pressure that we can exert that helps to overthrow, let's be honest, overthrow the communist totalitarian dictatorship that has been in charge of Cuba for over 60 years? I don't think Joe Biden's administration is going to come up with the appropriate response. I think Trump's administration would have done a little bit better job, but it's long past time for the Castro brothers, who now no longer control Cuba, and their heir apparents to lose the ability to forestall democracy and capitalism in Cuba. If you've ever been on a cruise ship, it's really kind of eerie. All you do on many cruises, particularly those of the Western Caribbean, is just circle Cuba. You come down off of Florida, go around Cuba. I remember thinking how strange it was been. I've never been to Cuba. I would like to go just to see it. But I remember thinking how strange it was when the cruise ship is passing and we were close enough to Cuba to be able to see all of the old buildings that were along the seafront in Havana as we went past Cuba, but yet we're not able or allowed to ever actually visit that island. The people of Cuba deserve better, and so do all the Cuban Americans here. We need to do as much as we possibly can to try to provide freedom there. But one crazy story that came out, I don't know how many of you even saw this, Mia Khalifa, who is a former porn star, who is now no longer a porn star, but obviously did some porn back in the day and became very famous for it. She is being accused of Cuba's president of fomenting the revolution in Cuba right now. And I got to give credit to Mia Khalifa, because if she is actually managing to do that, it is one of the great all-time moves. Of course, she isn't. But if she were, more props to her. That is the First Amendment and boobs writ large. Mia Khalifa, former porn star, being blamed in real life, this is a real quote, by the Cuban president for the uprising in the streets of Cuba all over that country. Last night, one of the things that's not awful about my new schedule, I don't have to be up at 4:15 or 4:30 in the morning anymore to do a sports talk radio show. And so I can stay up later at night and have a more normal schedule. And last night I took my kids and we went to go see the new Black Widow movie in the theater. It was great, although I would encourage, small thing, but I would encourage the dine-in theater to get back to being an actual dine-in theater. I booked tickets to go sit in the dine-in theater. I love to go eat and watch a movie and have food brought to me. If you're going to encourage me to go to a movie theater and not watch everything streaming on the big screen televisions that all of us have in our homes now, you need to sell me something that is unique and an experience that is better than what I might have at home. And right now, I don't think movie theaters are recognizing that. They are in a true battle to legitimize their existence in the years ahead. And so when I go to a movie now, I want to be able to get cool opportunities inside of the movie theater that wouldn't otherwise exist at my home, such as being able to order food and eat while I watch the movie. And they're not doing that right now. The dine-in theater option is not working as it normally would. You can order food at the concession stand and they'll bring it to you or whatnot, but it's a limited menu. It's not the same thing. Look, I'm trying to help the movie theaters out there survive. You need to get back to providing an elite dining opportunity on some level to get me to leave my house and not just watch movies on the big screen televisions. Now, we'll say, Black Widow, entertaining movie. Scarlett Johansson playing the Black Widow character. We know, spoiler alert, she's already died. This is actually a movie going back in time. But I thought it was really entertaining. I don't even know the guy's name, but Hopper from Stranger Things is fantastic in this movie. Really funny. I'm ready, by the way, for Stranger Things Season 4. But the Hopper character, and I already forgot the dude's name, big, kind of chubby guy, he did a fantastic job. I thought he basically stole the show He was fantastic. Really entertaining movie. I've been to see 2 movies, I think it is, in theater this summer so far. I went and saw A Quiet Place 2. Also thought it was pretty great. I've seen Boss Baby 2, just okay. And now I have seen this movie, The Black Widow, which has been held for a long time, finally back in theaters. All right, I appreciate all of you. Go subscribe, give us 5 stars to the OutKick the Show podcast. Heck, just type in my name, Clay Travis, and subscribe to the shows that pop up on Google, on iTunes, and on Spotify. I appreciate all of you. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. My name is Clay Travis, and this has been OutKick